This is the Asus TUF A15, a very popular product right now in the budget-friendly gaming laptop market. A lot of you have requested a review of this machine in the comments section, so there you go guys. It's understandable that this product is so popular, because it really is quite interesting. You already want to buy it just by looking at the specs alone. The machine that I have here is under $1,000, 6-core AMD GTX 1650 Ti plus a 144Hz screen. A spec sheet that's almost too good to be true. It really surprised me. But in today's video, I'm gonna try and contain that excitement to give you the most objective review. To kick off this review, it would be most fitting to start with the one thing that's helping the A15 shake up the market: performance. The version that I have here is equipped with a Ryzen 5 4600H CPU, GTX 1650 Ti graphics card, 8GB of RAM and 512GB SSD. This version is selling in my country for an equivalent of around $950 US. If you're in the US, the highest spec option with Ryzen 7 4800H with 16GB of RAM and GTX 1660 Ti is available to order on Amazon for only $999 US. Very impressive prices for the specs on paper, but actual using experience honestly disappoints me a little. I'm gonna compare this to last year's ROG Strix G531 so you get a better idea. First, I benchmarked them with Cinebench R15. Intel's single core point turns out similar to Ryzen 5 4600H. In terms of multi-core, AMD is clearly stronger with the two bigger cores. Okay, but that's only benchmarking. The most important thing is actual using experience. I tried rendering a 4K video with Premiere Pro 2020 and compare it to the Strix G531. And of course, I did it with CUDA, not Intel QuickSync. 6-core CPU, GTX 1650 Ti, 5% more powerful than 1650. Yet, the TUF A15 still loses in rendering times. I tried a few more times, putting in more color corrections so it puts more strain on the card, but every time the G531 still ends up with a faster rendering time, and by a considerable margin. My theory is that Adobe Premiere is better optimized for Intel compared to the Ryzen 4000 series that are still very new. And one very interesting thing is that while rendering, both CPU uses up similar amounts of power, over 40 watts, but the G531 is cooler by over 10 degrees Celsius. So cool. This is thanks to the more reasonable venting system on the G531, allowing more air to come in and out. Meanwhile, the TUF 15 doesn't have the best design in this aspect, which I'll get to later. What's more is it's not only cooler, but the G531 also runs quieter when I have both machines in turbo mode. So perhaps if you're working with tasks that can really take advantage of the multi-core performance, the 4600H will have an edge. But with Adobe programs like Premiere Pro, After Effects, or just multimedia tasks in general, the Intel option is still better optimized. About gaming, perhaps this is the one aspect where you care about the most. The A15 is equipped with the GTX 1650 Ti, so it has about 5% improvement compared to the GTX 1650 on the G531. Not much, but better is still better, isn't it? And because the G531 is so cool, the FPS stays very consistent. It's also consistent on the A15, still a great gaming experience. But sometimes the CPU jumps to over 90 degrees Celsius. If you put it in turbo mode, sometimes the CPU gets up to over 95 degrees Celsius, and this leads to the GPU also heating up and the overall FPS drops. It's honestly quite rare that this happens, but still, I think this would disappoint a lot of users considering how popular this laptop is. I know that the A15 could have stayed cooler if the design of the cooling vents at the bottom were more open. There has been a lot of discussions surrounding this machine's venting system. Instead of putting open vents at the area of the two fans, Asus closed it up and moved the openings to the RAM and mainboard area. They say that this is so the keyboard and palm rest can stay cool. I tested this, and yes, the WASD keys area is indeed very cool. The hottest spot in the middle is only at 50 degrees Celsius, very comfortable for gaming. But I personally think that Asus tried a bit too hard to outsmart others here. Cooling vents when put at their regular areas at the two fans still allow other machines to run very smoothly. RAMs and mainboards still stay very cool. If it were up to me, I would prefer more gaps at the area of the two fans so that more cool air can be sucked in and cool down the whole internal. But well, that's a product and that's what you get. Cooling might not be up to expectations, but it's still entirely acceptable. Okay, this is 2020 guys. You shouldn't be looking solely at specs and cooling like before. Manufacturers are taking big leaps in other hardware parts to give users a better overall experience. And talking about overalls, the TUF A15 brings more than enough. Not only it has powerful specs, it's also the only machine in the price range with a 144Hz screen with integrated adaptive sync. Although in terms of color gamut, this display is only average, similar to other products in the same price range. But a 144Hz screen for under $1,000 is already super attractive for gamers. About design, the A15 has some substantial changes. For example, it looks like Asus puts in one whole metal plate for the A panel. The machine now looks more premium, not too plasticky like previous models. When you go further in, everything is still organized in the familiar, edgy style of the TUF line. The keyboard has a sturdy frame, sufficient layout, and good travel. RGB LED on the whole keyboard. The touchpad also has a good size and nice tracking feel. I/O. The A15 provides almost everything I need. One USB-A 3.2 Gen 1, one USB-A 2.0, and one Type-C 3.2 Gen 2 with DisplayPort, HDMI, RJ45, and the 3.5 audio jack combo. The speakers. Some of you might mistake it for the air vents up here, but it's actually here, the one that looks like an SD card slot. Sound quality is at okay level. The sound range is adjustable via the dedicated app for different use cases. The machine has two NVMe SSD slots, two RAM slots supporting up to 32 gigs of RAM, plus a 2.5 HDD slot. This level of upgradability is very good for this price range. The 49Wh battery allows you to use the machine for 3.5 to 4 hours with office tasks and maximum brightness, acceptable for a gaming laptop. To sum up, the Asus TUF A15 indeed has many interesting points. Just by looking at the specs, it's clear that it's targeting users who are looking for a reasonably priced yet powerful gaming machine. It has a good graphics card and CPU, and the only 144Hz screen in the price range. Very attractive design and good build quality. As I said, everything almost sounds too good to be true. But in terms of performance and cooling, it's a little underwhelming. Not as good as I expected. But overall, I still consider this a worth buying gaming laptop in 2020. So there you go.